Now to a story you'll only see here on Channel 6 News. It's a startling new reality. The rate of substance abuse among young people continues to climb at an alarming rate. A nationwide opioid epidemic has gripped an entire generation, and alcohol abuse in high schools and colleges across the country is rampant as well. So we talked to substance abuse experts and the people who have felt the impact of addiction firsthand in order to find out how parents and kids alike can identify the problem before it's too late. For the parents who have seen their loved ones spiral into the darkness of addiction, it is a frightening reality. It's one of the biggest threats facing American youth today, all too often hiding in plain sight.
Delta overdose.
And for millions of parents across the nation, navigating their children through the complex journey of substance abuse has become a frightening reality.
I was afraid that one day I would be driving through Austin, seeing a homeless face, and that it would probably be my son.
Maria Appelzahler's son has battled an alcohol addiction for over a decade. When it became overwhelming, she started to search for ways to cope, which led her to hold weekly support meetings in Round Rock called PAL, or Parents of Addicted Loved Ones.
My son was at the end of his rope, and I felt that I needed help myself.
But over the past decade, the face of addiction has transformed dramatically, and the types of substances that have infiltrated high school hallways and adolescent bloodstreams across the country have changed as well.
A lot of kids get started just simply by going in medicine cabinets, and they start use that way.
Nationwide, the number of young people abusing painkillers, Adderall and Ritalin, has more than doubled in recent years. But other types of drugs have also found their way into mainstream use as well.
Another big one is benzos, which is Xanax, Valium, those type of things.
And for parents like Maria, who find their children tangled in the suffocating web of addiction, the struggle to find answers can be incredibly painful.
You go through a lot of guilt, and you go through a lot of shame, and you go through a lot of self-blame.
But recognizing substance abuse before it's too late can be difficult, especially among kids in their teens and 20s who often learn to hide their condition.
Well, I think first of all you have to know, it's very important that you know your child and that you know their behaviors.
The biggest problem timeframes is the period between high school and college, as peer pressure and exposure to different vices becomes more accessible.
It's that first 6 weeks that decides whether or not they're going to be somebody who's drinking heavily or if they're going to stay on that path of abstinence.
Lily Ettinger is the program coordinator at Baylor University's Addiction Recovery Center. She's seen the problem firsthand.
The addict label isn't shameful. It is a disease. It's not an issue of moral behavior. It's not an issue of choice. It's a disease just like asthma or diabetes.
Recovery centers and rehab facilities like this one are popping up in cities across the country in order to combat a growing number of patients. And for parents and addicts alike, they provide a critical step on the road to recovery.
You don't raise your child to be an addict. You don't. And it's very disappointing, and it's very hard to admit to yourself that your child is an addict.
Maria says the hardest part of the process for any parent is learning to deny them things like money in order to stop enabling the problem.
It is okay to say no to your child, because by saying no, you are helping your child.
For Maria, her story has a happy ending. Her son has now been in rehab for several months and is working to build a new life. Finally, back on the right path, a goal that millions of other families across the country who are trying to escape the darkness of addiction dream of as well.
After about a month, 30 days, I could look at him, I could focus with him, I could see his eyes. I got my son back at that time, I could tell.
If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction and you're looking for treatment options or simply a way to cope, we will have a link to the Parents of Addicted Loved Ones website as well as other resources on KCENTV.com this evening.